Here. Yeah. Hello, and welcome to our Ontario Network of CAPC CPNP Projects launch event that we're hosting today. Today we are hosting our um, evaluation toolkit. Network Impact Evaluation and Needs Assessment Toolkit is the full length. Um, my name is Sydney Bell. I'm the network program lead. I work out of an organization called Camino Mental Health and Wellbeing in Kitchener, Ontario. And I'm really happy to be here with you all. And if I can find my notes, I would love to begin our time together with a land and territory acknowledgement, acknowledging that we come together today from many places across Ontario on the traditional territories of First Nations, Inuit, Métis people, including the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Algonquin, Muskogee, Huron-Wendat, Mississauga, Métis Nations, among others. We honor the treaties, including the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Covenant and the Upper Canada Treaties, Robinson-Huron, Robinson-Superior, Williams Treaties, Treaties 3, 5, and 9. And I think especially today we think about our commitment to evaluation practices that are grounded in Indigenous data sovereignty, strengths, and respectful partnership. So in spirit of gratitude, we give thanks for the land, the waters, and all of our relations, human, animal, fish, and creepy crawlies who sustain our life. Miigwech and welcome to our launch event. Okay, so my job here now is to set the stage a little bit, to let you know that today we will be having a few words from Debbie Engel, who is also with Camino Mental Health and Wellbeing, the network sponsor agency, and we'll be having Jana, who's here with us, actually give us the tour of the toolkit and tell us all about it and just sort of give us the overview. What I would like to do is take a brief moment to just acknowledge that this project was made possible because of a longstanding partnership with the folks, including Jana, at the Center for Community-Based Research, and that we receive funding from an Evaluation Capacity Network CERI grant. And that really so much work was done, and this project was possible because of contribution of our project steering committee members. And what I will do is I'm going to, oh, I see a spelling mistake, so that's not good. I'm going to just put their names in the chat as a form of acknowledgement for their time. Coming together, was it about 6 times over the course of the project, Jana, to guide us in this work? I think something like that.
Maybe 3 or 4, actually.
Maybe 3 or 4. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so just checking to see if Debbie is here. I don't see her here yet. So I think, oh, there's a couple more things that I wanted to say before passing things on to Jana. First is, I'm also going to put in the chat the actual link to the toolkit. So feel free to click on that. And this is what Jana will be leading us through. And another link that I'm going to put in the chat is to a virtual board. And this board is a place for you to just share any comments or questions that you might have your impressions of the toolkit. So I really invite you, as we're spending our time together today, to get on the board and share your thoughts. So, if you have any questions, actually, also we'd love to hear know who's here. So, also please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat as well. Okay, I'm a little sort of disjointed and all over the place, but I think I've covered everything that I wanted to say in welcoming you all to our launch today. It's really great to have you here. And so, Jana, I'm going to pass things over to you to take us on a tour of this toolkit.
For sure. And Sydney, were you thinking I would do the tour and then you'll talk more about the project background, or would you like to give the project background first?
Yeah, actually, Debbie was going to speak to that. So, uh, sorry, this is what,
I can do the tour first. We'll
yeah,
go
why don't
like
we do
specific and
that?
then we can go broad again.
Yes,
Okay.
let's do that.
Oh, and Kara's just noting that
Okay.
the links are the same.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll repost the link to the board. Go.
So hi everyone, I'm Jana. I'm a senior researcher at the Center for Community-Based Research. And I've been collaborating with Sydney and the CAPC CPNP network for quite a few years now. And it's always a privilege to come out to your events and get to know you and support the great work that you're doing. Today, I'm pleased to introduce this toolkit to you that we have developed over 1 year of collaboration and customized work. So over 1 year, we've met with the steering committee of CAPC CPNP Projects folks, and they've guided this toolkit development. And we've tried to customize it for your projects specifically. At the Center for Community-Based Research, we do work really locally as well as across Canada and sometimes internationally to build the capacity of different folks doing community-based research. So we have, a lot of content that we already draw on when it comes to our teaching and education. We also offer mentoring and coaching services. And so, drawing on all of this content, we wanted to do a few consultations and chat with people in the CAPC CPNP network to really customize this toolkit that we want to offer your network. And here on the screen is the big reveal of the website where this toolkit lives. So on this website homepage, you can expect to see a website tour to show you how all of the pages are laid out. You can take a quick glance at the components of the toolkit. That this toolkit is really about a community-based approach to research. It focuses in on impact evaluation and needs assessments. And we also take a lens of equity, diversity, inclusion, and decolonization. So these are the main components of what the toolkit tries to bring together. The majority of the content on this website is under the How To tab. That's where you'll find information and resources about how would you lay the foundation for a new project. How would you go about research planning? What are tips for information gathering and analysis? And finally, what are ideas for how you could act on the findings? So that's all under the How To tab, where you might spend the majority of your time reviewing the material. We have additional resources. In case you have a specific interest, you might find a resource that is that goes more in depth into a particular area. And then throughout the toolkit, you will see a case example that was based on the Baby Beginning Programs from Brass Bell. This is a CAPC CPNP project that is in Northern Ontario, close to Thunder Bay. And shout out to Colleen, who I think is in the room, who I worked closely with a few years ago. Colleen had hired CCBR to come in and offer a few online workshops for her staff to better understand and use evaluation. So, based on our series of workshops, we developed this case example, which is a really practical, hands-on tool that you can look at when it comes to each stage of evaluation. So the background to it, as well as what was the purpose of this evaluation, the context. And so it's about 30 pages that you can see as a case example. It's mostly a survey. So if you're particularly interested in how to design and implement an effective survey, I think this case example is very helpful because it goes through the various drafts of this is what we wanted to learn, and this is how we revised our survey questions to really get at the information that matters to us. So in that way, I would recommend looking at this case example and just acknowledgements at the bottom of this toolkit website. So let's look. We were just at the home page. I would like to show you the About page. It goes over our framework of what is our approach, the two types of research that we are focused on, and our lens of EDID. Here again is the authors, the project team, and the steering committee that made this toolkit website possible. Then here's just an overview about what is a community-based evaluation approach and how is being community-based different or unique. Then we get into what really is needs assessment and why would you want to do needs assessment. Same for impact evaluation. What is that? And when would you or your organization benefit from doing an impact evaluation? Finally, we have an introduction to equity, diversity, inclusion, and decolonization with some short and succinct definitions for each of those terms. So that's what you can expect to find on the About page. For the readiness, it goes through some questions you might want to consider when it comes to whether your organization or the individuals on your team, are they ready to do an evaluation that is community-based and meaningful? So thinking at that individual, organizational, as well as the environmental level of your funder and the resources that you might have. There's a readiness tool that you could use from the Evaluation Capacity Network to kind of reflect on what may be ready or what might be holding you up when it comes to doing evaluation. Finally, if you're interested in hiring a research consultant, this is a little PDF about what you might want to think through of which research consultant would be the best fit for you in equipping your team to do research or evaluation. The bulk of the toolkit is in this How-To tab, which we are going to look at next. So we have organized it from phase 1 of laying the foundation. If you're thinking about going in order of your research or evaluation project, you might want to start at laying the foundation. Because before we get into even designing the tools and the ways that you're going to collect information, there's a few important things to think about before getting into the research planning. So on each of these pages, you can expect to see some brief steps of what does it mean to lay the foundation? What does that look like? Here, if you want to really dig in, there's a video that I created from kind of Canva slides and then my own voice that takes you through the different steps and considerations in laying the foundation. In each of these videos, you can expect to also see considerations for equity, diversity, inclusion, and decolonization. And these considerations were really shaped by conversations that we had with CAPC, CPNP projects that are Indigenous led. So just as context, we had a really active Indigenous person on our steering committee, Flo, and we give many thanks to her for guiding us. And she recommended that we reach out specifically to Indigenous-led projects to host a sharing circle. So we hosted a sharing circle. We had about 6 folks come out and we talked about research and evaluation. And what does that mean for an Indigenous project? What does that look like? And then after that, we sent out an invitation to Indigenous CAPC CPNP projects for one-on-one conversations with myself to go a little bit deeper into their practice of research and evaluation and what recommendations they would have for us when it comes to this toolkit. So in that way, we are able to really draw on the lived experience of these Indigenous-led projects and implement that into the toolkit. So that's what you have to look forward to as you dive into these videos. Going down a little bit on the laying the foundation page, we have a workbook that takes you through the steps of, for example, with laying the foundation, you would do stakeholder mapping. Here's how you could create a logic model before you go into evaluation. Some components of the logic model. Here's a formula that you can use for creating a purpose statement and really figuring out what is the scope of your project. And so each of these workbook pages takes you through practical steps that may guide you on your way to a very meaningful type of evaluation or impact assessment or needs assessment. And you can expect to see the case example on every page because it does take you through all 4 phases of the community-based research approach. So I do suggest starting with laying the foundation because it's a really good place to reflect on what do I even need to think about as I begin a new research project. I'll wrap up soon and pass it back to Sydney or Debbie, but I just wanted to finish talking about this how-to page. So next we have research planning, and you can expect to see the same type of information on this page again. Here are the steps. You can see a new video that's all about research planning, the workbook, and the case example. So each of the how-to pages are laid out in the same way. Finally, we have the additional resources page, which breaks down some public access resources. You can see some videos here and some online resources that are about community-based research. And we have specific ones for impact evaluation, if you want to dive deeper into understanding how you might assess your impact. We have resources that are specifically about needs assessment. And finally, more resources about equity, diversity, inclusion, and decolonization. So that's a good place to go if you find that you want to dive deeper into one of these areas. I haven't been able to read the chat, but I see some comments coming in the chat. I'm going to
There
stop.
is a
Yeah.
request to enlarge. Margaret, were you referring to what were you wanting, the actual website could to be
Well,
enlarged?
the presentation, I couldn't see it hardly. It's so small. I was like, yeah, that's okay. So my understanding, we have to go through this process again for funding again. Is that what we're doing, or what is this about?
Uh,
We kind of skipped the project background, so maybe it's a good place to go back to it, Sydney, because we kind of didn't go through that.
Thank you.
Um, I mean, what we've been told by Public Health Agency of Canada is in 2030, right? There will be another round of applications. Yeah. This is a resource put together though by the network to support evaluation and impact for network members anytime now between now and in the future.
Between now and 2030, when we have to resubmit, it's like getting prepared,
Sure.
right? How do we, okay, I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify if I have to, when we had to send something in again, it was just like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sydney, do you want me to jump in and just give some context to how we got here, or did you do that since I came in late with technology issues?
Sure. Why don't we do that? And then we'll go to the
Quick,
Q&A
quick.
with
Okay.
Jenna. Yeah.
So I think from a network perspective and a coordinating committee perspective, CCBR works with us regularly from the network and coordinating to evaluate the work that we do. And when the calls for submission came with Public Health Agency of Canada, there was a lot of requests from the coordinating committee to be able to look at how do we do a needs assessment? How do we do those things that every organization had a little bit of information and a lot of stress about the types of things that Public Health Agency of Canada was asking us to create and to do. And evaluation was one of those spaces that was identified as a significant gap. And so the coordinating committee, who is about capacity building for all of our projects, made a decision to work with CCBR to do some of this work. And they did engagement across a bunch of projects. And I heard Jana, when I came in, talk about we intentionally really wanted to understand the needs of our Indigenous partners. And Flo was such a great asset for us, who was part of the steering committee at the time, who really encouraged us to do a separate kind of work alongside Indigenous partners to understand their work. And this toolkit is just something that's now been developed that you can use for anything. It's to ground anyone when you're evaluating any part of your work. These are kind of the best practice approaches so that everyone has a common language and a common understanding of the ways to do this work moving forward. And then it will help you to be positioned for there's no need to do anything with your current submission. It is about positioning you to evaluate your work, any type of work that you're doing, and to give you a common tool to use that will be available the whole time. The same as some of the guides that have been created through the coordinating committee, some of the webinars that have been created, all of those. This is a resource for you. Sid, did I miss anything that you wanted me to share?
Thanks, Debbie. It's
No,
Margaret. I
yeah.
can't open this link though. It's not opening. Event board.
Okay.
I can't check out the event board here. It's not opening for me. I don't know
Okay.
if anyone else is having problems.
Oh, you can't open Miro?
No.
Sometimes it can help to copy paste it. It's you're getting the information by being here in the webinar. The board is a place to add questions. If you do have questions, I mean, you just come out and ask it, which is great. And or feel free to put it in the chat. And I'll screen share what people have put on the board in a little bit so that you'll get a chance to see it. Sometimes it can be finicky about a browser. It might not like the browser you're using, or so anyway, I'm sorry that you're having trouble. Debbie, I think that you referred to, we really, we're glad for you to come and kind of set the context, why we as a network partnered with the Center for Community-Based Research and worked to develop this toolkit. And so I appreciate that. I mentioned earlier that you are with Camino Mental Health and Wellbeing, the sponsor agency
Perfect.
for the network. So I know how busy you are. So I really
This
appreciate
wasn't
your
a busy,
time
this was a
today.
technology thing. Sorry, my
It's
computer has a mind of
okay.
its own. All week it's
Yeah.
been not my friend. So I apologize
Yeah.
because I should have been here at the beginning. I
That's
apologize for that.
okay. We're glad you made it. And so let's move into questions. We do have some questions that have been put on the board. But does anybody have anything right here in the room that they just want to, unmute and come on and ask of Jana, especially about the tool? Or is everybody feeling a little shy today?
I'd
Okay,
be
let me.
interested in knowing from the
Yeah.
high level, because we've
Yeah.
invested quite a bit of time and resources into this. Do people feel like they can see themselves being able to benefit from this as a project? Even a thumbs up or an awareness, because it will help us to know the types of things we're investing in. Kara gave me a thumbs up there. You can use either the tool or show me. Lots of people are off screen. So I
Yeah.
just think it's important for us to know that, and I'm sure you'll dig into it, but it's important for us to know that you see this as a valuable resource and can see it being applied to the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'm seeing some thumbs floating up, and Colleen came on screen here to
I like
float
to see
up
your
her
lovely face,
thumbs.
Colleen.
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie. Um, Here are some of the questions and reflections that people have shared on our board. Um, Under first impressions, we have a sharing that the board is, let me make this a bit larger, user-friendly with lots of tutorials and video and written information, noting that it's really helpful for all kinds of learners. So I appreciate that feedback for sure. And then in terms of application to practice, let's step there for a bit. It was noted that can certainly help us with our future applications, especially as 2030 is moving into a competitive application. I see here needs assessment for family programming. Needs of families are always changing. Somebody put here to propose new programming for our organization that it could be helpful. So thank you for those reflections. And then we have some questions. So we have, you mentioned making surveys, Jana. So somebody asking about, how do you know, what are the elements of a good survey or what makes a good survey? Would you say on the spot? Are you able to give us a bit of few points about that?
Sure, yeah, I can dive into that question. Um, so one of the main things about designing a survey that will be meaningful for your evaluation is that you really want to have a good understanding of your purpose. What is it that you want to know from the people that you're asking questions? So if you can keep the purpose center of mind, then think about
Mhm.
what questions are accessible to ask this population or this client group, perhaps, that can get at this greater purpose. So often what we do, it helps if you work in a team, of course. I find if you're just
Mhm.
a person working alone on a survey, you come
Mhm.
up with and you get stuck. It's nice to be able to work on a team because as a team, you can brainstorm. This is our
Mhm.
purpose. Okay, how could we break down our purpose into really accessible, plain language questions?
Mhm.
And then, so that's maybe one tip. My other tip is to consider having both closed-ended questions and open-ended questions.
Right.
For example, if you just have questions that have a comment box, and people open up the survey and they see a bunch of comment boxes. Sometimes that can overwhelm folks of like, oh, I just need to type in a whole essay here. Sometimes what we do with surveys is we ask kind of more simpler introductory questions at the beginning that have multiple choice or checklist answers. In that way, you're kind of orientating people to the topic at hand. You're starting to cue their memory of thinking back to perhaps the program or the program components. In that way, you're preparing people to reflect a little bit deeper. Later on in the survey, there can be open-ended questions where people are welcomed to type in their responses. And I find that if your survey has a balance of those close-ended and open-ended questions, you will get both numbers and quantitative data. You'll be able to count specific indicators of what you're looking for. You'll be able to describe the participants who participated in the survey, like who took this survey, who didn't take the survey, who was missing. And then with open-ended questions, you would have your qualitative data where you can start diving a little bit deeper into meanings. What is the perception? What is the meaning behind this answer? And get at those why questions. So those are just two very brief tips about surveys. I'm sure I would have more, but I'll stop there.
Well, actually, I think I heard three, right? Because you began with that really important of knowing the purpose. And, almost every question that you're asking, reflecting and saying, why am I asking this question? Does it relate back to the purpose, right? That's so important. And then the plain language as well. So
Right.
thank you for that. There is also a question here about community-based research. And is that different from other research? How is it different, if so? And why is it important, maybe? Sorry, lots of big questions throwing at you.
No, that's great. I'm glad to speak to that. So community-based research, if you want to define it in a very simple way, it's community-driven, participatory, and action-oriented. And I think in a lot of ways it aligns with CAPC CPNP projects because they are so community-driven, right? And so in that way, we try to understand the context of the community before diving into the research. Like, what is it that the community really wants to know? And how could this project be of benefit to the community in the end? So that's true of needs assessment, that the better you know the changing needs of the community, the better you can serve them. That's true of impact evaluation, of we really want to know how this project or initiative impacts the community so that perhaps we can change our activities or change our anticipated outcomes. Participatory, it simply means that people with lived experience, as well as staff or other folks, have a meaningful way of contributing to the project, that they could guide the project in some way to make sure that it stays relevant to the on-the-ground experience. Action-oriented simply means that the evaluation or research project, it would lead to some kind of meaningful change, that with the information that we're going to gain, that we can make some kind of change that would impact the end user of our programs.
I'm really hearing you say it's like community driven, so sort of we're not sort of thinking of as something we're doing to communities, but rather with communities. And then ideally not something just to sit on a shelf and gather dust, but something that actually is connected to action. Okay. I see one more question on the board, and certainly please feel free if somebody else has a question to either unmute or put it in the chat or on the board. But it's a question around inclusivity and that sort of EDID, economic equity, diversity, and inclusion, and decolonization, right? Um, so especially around recruiting participants, how can we be sure to be sort of equity driven or inclusive?
Hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to recruiting participants, which basically means you're thinking about who your survey, who your focus group or interview, who you're targeting, who you're inviting into that. So a suggestion when thinking about EDID in recruitment is to first really understand the population that you want to better uh, have better information on. So,
Mhm.
for example, if you're thinking about um, young families in your city, who
Mhm.
are the young families? What do young families really look like in terms of various demographic information? And then in your recruitment, you can think about where are these young families going in different locations of your city, and how could you best um, send out an invitation that would attract a diversity of different young families that have various lived experience and various identities. So you might notice perhaps in previous evaluation or needs assessment that you've done, it seems to attract the same kind of participant over and over again, and you get the same
Mhm.
people coming out to your um, research or evaluation sessions. Well, that's just a note to say, how could I better invite in and make accessible opportunities to hear from more diverse, for example, young families? Um, and so those kind of questions are top of mind when it comes to inclusion and
Mhm.
recruitment, thinking about who your population is, how to go about inviting them in, and making those opportunities kind of accessible.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, anybody else have questions or comments at this point as we begin to wrap up our time together today? Okay. Well, I want to extend gratitude to a few places, to our coordinating committee members for their support of this initiative, as well as those who came forward and participated on the steering committee and really, helped us shape and guide the work that we're doing. And again, I want to thank the Center for Community-Based Research, as well as our funder, the Evaluation Capacity Network, provided some funding for this project. And also, again, to you, Jana, for your work. And it's been such a pleasure to do this. Thank you so much for your time. And today, Debbie, thank you for coming and joining us and helping us set the context and talk about this. And finally, thanks to all who joined us here for our launch. We've recorded our session here, so that'll be available for people to watch. And watch for also some highlights coming up in the newsletter, and I'm sure upcoming other sessions like workshops and webinars and things like that for us to continue to explore and to learn together. So with that, unless there are any other final comments or questions, um, want to wish you all a wonderful rest of the day. And again, thank you for joining. And yeah, take care. Thanks for coming, Colleen, Margaret, Kara. Nice to see you, and all of those folks who are here listening in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
And thanks,
Sydney. Thank you,
Jana.
Jenna.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Take care.
Good to see you all.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
No, some gratitude in the. Oh, did you not have a chance to mention what you wanted to mention,
Oh, it's
Jana?
all good. Yeah,
It's all good. Okay.
I was a bit scattered in thinking, and then